I don't think it's far-fetched to say that we'll never see a player in the NBA who used torment, manipulation, and intimidation to earn the immortal respect of his peers. Heck, if any of us could scare the living hell out of my opponents just in presence, like MJ, one of us could have been one of the greatest to ever do it, too. Speaking of scary, some of the greatest Michael Jordan stories that might just baffle you, and maybe even convince you, after all, that Larry Bird was right. He is God disguised as MJ. Let's get deep into this, but before going straight to the content, here is the brand new information on the channel, is that 3 lucky winners will get a chance to win PS5. Only you have to comment your views on these shockingly stories of MJ's life in the comments section below. Let's start today's topic. Number 5. How to kill an NBA career. Michael Jordan. This story is just ruthless, sort of agonizing, and kind of freaky. There's trash talking, and then there's a flat-out mean language that can affect the psyche of a player, something MJ mastered. So, he took it a step further by pairing his already suffocating perimeter defense with his merciless, nasty smack talk. Smack talk that would only hit another extreme come playoff time. In a game against the Charlotte Hornets in the first round of the 1995 NBA playoffs, MJ was letting Hornets players hear it all game long. It was Game 5. And if the Hornets could steal that game, the series would have become hugely interesting. On the other side stood a Hornets team that featured the smallest player in league history in Muggsy Bogues, who stood all of 5 feet to 3 inches tall. And for all his toughness as a miniature-sized player playing among giants, even the seemingly fearless Muggsy Bogues, like the rest of the league, shrank at the terrifying trash talk of MJ. An open Muggsy on the loose right wing caught a pass and looked at a wide-open jumper that could have swung the tide in the game. Then MJ happened. Muggsy watched MJ rotate over to him and saw that he had a lot of space between him and Mike. He thought about it a little, and then Mike said to him, "Shoot it, UF, King Midget." And like only MJ can, he horrified Muggsy into taking the shot, and of course, he wasn't going to make that shot. Muggsy told the assistant coach for MJ's Bulls that MJ single-handedly demoralized his career after that game. That kind of sucks, considering that Muggsy was coming off his career-best scoring season. But there's a whole lot more than where that came from. Number 4. God disguised as Michael Jordan. Sure, we'll probably see plenty of more great individual performances from a player on a not-so-good team versus a good team. But what we won't ever see, or hear, again is the opposing team, the team's best player on the winning team, say that the opposing player is a god. Certainly not after they just swept him. I would never have called him the greatest player I'd ever seen if I didn't mean it. It's just God disguised as Jordan. These were the words of Larry Bird. The same Larry Bird who just won his 3rd consecutive MVP award and would go on to average 28-29 in each of the next 2 seasons. The same Larry Bird who was known as a menace of a trash talker, at least in the ballpark of, if not neck and neck with him. In what still is the highest scoring output in NBA history, MJ's 63 was the performance that convinced the world and all his idolaters that he isn't human. His 21 made shots came thanks to literally every move out of the bag you'll ever see a player pull off. He had 23 points in the first half, 31 points in the second half, and 9 more points in the 2 OT periods. The score was as close as 133 to 131 until the Celtics pulled away with a late jumper to seal a 4-point victory. 135-131. Boston left that game relieved that at least they wouldn't have to see MJ until at least next season. Even though he and the Bulls were swept 3-0, Mike was scaring the life out of the Celtics, who, frankly, knew that this guy would be a force to be reckoned with for years. Bird walked away victorious but was still struck by what he just witnessed out on the court. Bird, who never spoke glowingly about anyone, couldn't hold back praise for Mike, saying, "He is the most exciting, most awesome player in the game. I didn't think anyone was capable of doing what Michael has done to us." Black Jesus, God disguised as Michael Jordan, his airness, these are just a few names the world had for Mike. And remember that shoe of his dropped in 1984? It quickly had the whole world flocking for a new pair of J's. Number 3. MJ bullied another player out of the league. Judd Biekler, who was MJ's teammate on the Bulls for 4 seasons, said that people were afraid of him. "We were his teammates and afraid of him." If you thought that MJ's teammates were lucky that they didn't have to guard him, they were entirely the opposite, because they had to practice with him. And it was during practices that MJ had zero regard for his teammates' feelings, particularly the feelings of the upstart Rodney McRae, who MJ would play one-on-one with and bet money during practices with. MJ completely demoralized the young McRae by actually bullying him. He called him names, told him he sucked, and that he wouldn't make it anywhere in this league. This showed the utterly ruthless animal MJ was because McRae was by no means a bad player, he was excellent. He even had a season in which he averaged 17 points per game and a few other seasons averaging better than 14. He was a productive starter in the league who stayed mostly healthy and probably would have helped the Bulls if he didn't terrorize him during his lone season on the Bulls. McRae only started 5 games and even retired after that season. Damn, MJ, did you have to do the young buck like that? Number 2, the flu game or the food poisoning game. Do you remember what went down on June 11, 1997? Yes, that was the famous flu game in the 1997 NBA Finals. And the time MJ said he felt like crap before the game and described that he was dehydrated and felt that he couldn't breathe. But that didn't stop his airness from scoring 38 points with 15 points in the fourth quarter. And as only MJ does best, he hit a go-ahead three-pointer with seconds left in the ballgame. But did MJ have the bad flu or a bad pizza? It turns out that MJ got sick with food poisoning after he ordered a pizza at his hotel the day before the finals game against the Jazz. MJ, by his admission, thought that something wasn't right about the pizza when he got it, but he ate it anyway. Just a few hours later at around 2 a.m., MJ was throwing up in his hotel room when he called his trainer to tell him about what was going on. The next day, MJ couldn't eat, couldn't drink, could barely even walk, as he stayed in bed until the game. Even MJ's mom told him not to play the game. But in typical MJ fashion, he played his tail off in 44 minutes of greatness. In hindsight, if Utah couldn't beat MJ when he was sick and couldn't breathe, what on earth made them think they could take him down a year later in the '98 finals? Just another anecdote of the greatness of his airness. Number 1, all he said was 50. I enjoyed guarding Mike, cause the one thing I did with Mike was I never got him pissed off. You don't talk trash to him so he can go off for 60. You tryna kill him with kindness. At least Byron Scott would gracefully withstand the beating MJ would often give him. But this time around, Scott was injured and couldn't play. So, Anthony Peeler, who played in place of Byron Scott, was tasked with guarding MJ. That's when MJ knew it was over when simply said, 50, yeah, 50. He promised Byron Scott that he would score 50 in that game easy. He did not doubt his mind. When Byron Scott described the entire story on the Dan Patrick Show several years back, he said, I told Anthony Peeler, listen, MJ's probably going for 50 tonight. Just don't piss him off and be cool. In other words, Scott knew MJ would go off scoring the ball. He just wanted his teammate to walk out of that game without MJ swinging at him or mentally devastating him so that he, too, wouldn't have a Rodney McRae moment. By Scott's admission, his strategy to defend Jordan was to be nice to him and sort of encouraging him grudgingly. Because MJ's psycho mentality meant that he would somehow play 100 times better when he was pissed off and angry. He was fueled by spirited competition and ruthless emotion. Peeler walked away fine, so that was at least a win. So, did MJ get to 50 that night? You better believe he did. He scored 54 points and finished just 3 assists shy of what would have been the greatest 50-point triple-double ever. No man could have stopped MJ that night. Only MJ, ladies and gentlemen. Only Michael Jeffrey Jordan, his unrelenting performance or his mentality. I'm having a difficult time trying to decide which of the two are the greater MJ capabilities. He's the only player ever that has a mindset on par with his actual play, and that's what makes him so great. But one thing is for sure, never will another player come around that'll scare the life out of the entire league, and indeed won't get called a god by a 3-time league MVP. So, do you also think that Michael Jordan was not human at that time? Do let us know in the comments section below and get a chance to win a brand new PS5. If you enjoyed watching the video, do like and share, and yes, don't forget to hit that notification bell. Thank you so much.